So guys, I picked the sphere, and then from the origin point I create it, and then in Rhino options I wanna, as you can see, the density is set to the minimum value. I select the sphere, and then by using array, check it out, I array the sphere at 20 x direction and 20 at y direction and 10 along the z direction. Check it out, like this way. Again, 20, 20 and 10. Check it out, like this way. And even we can minimize the value, for example 10 and 15 for spacing and 10 for numbers in x direction. Check it out. Here I press down enter to save the changes. Here, as you watched, we created them as fast as possible. Following that, I want to save this file as, or saving the file, and then after specifying the location, I assign the name 01 or 01. Here, as you can see, the size is only 4 megabytes because of the lowest density of the render mesh. Then here in Rhino options, I maximize the density to the maximum value. Then again, I want to array the sphere, check it out, at the same value at x, y and z directions, like this way. Then as usual, as you can see, it takes some time to create these spheres. Following that, we're gonna save the file as, this time I name it 02 and 0, save, I'm sorry. Here as you can see, it takes a longer time to save the file than the previous one, in a way that Rhino is not responding, as you can see, because the size is too high, at least higher than the previous one. So wait for a second, please. I'm sorry, but it is taking a long time. I'm thankful for your patience, but check it out. Here is the new size, which is 416 megabytes, nearly 10 times or 100 times more than the previous file. And there is no difference between these spheres and the previous ones, but here we are working with a higher resolution. So this was the differences between those that we usually use jagged and faster, which is fine for general visualization purposes and for moving the processes and projects forward in Rhino. Let me minimize the density. Then I set the display mode to wireframe. Then I save the file as. Check it out. Here I check save small and save geometry only to activate them. 03. And by activating these two options, it does not save the render meshes because only the geometries will be saved. Then let us check out the size of the file. As you can see, it is 1.4 megabytes. So let us compare these two files with each other. Check it out, the differences in their sizes. The file 02 the size is 400 times more than the 03 file. Okay, let us continue. And if we want to minimize the size of the file more than this, is to converting the objects to a block by placing Ctrl+B buttons. Check it out in block definition properties. You can assign the name sphere, and then by using array at the same numbers, specified numbers, we array the sphere or the block. Check it out, like this way. Can create the objects and then save the file as, and don't forget to check save small and save geometry only. Then let us check out the size of the new file, which is 400 kilobytes. I mean the size of the file is halved, which is highly less than the 400 megabytes and easy to be transferred and to be updated. And about the blocks, for example, we can select one of them and then apply the changes on others. We should double click on the one of them and then in block edit dockable window, and then we modify the object. Following that, the changes will be applied on all of the objects. Again, double click and scaling, check it out, and also rotating the object, enter, check it out. The changes are applied on all of them fast as possible. So guys, by using the mesh settings that we usually set it to jagged and faster, and also by using the options in save like save small and save geometry only, we can minimize the size of the file, of the saved file, or in other words, we can optimize the file. And let me tell you the differences when we check save small and save geometry only. Check it out. I mean, when we check these two options, the render meshes would not be saved. The difference behind it is that when we want to open the file, it may take some time for the files and objects to be updated. And actually it depends on the complexity of your file or the size of your file. But afterwards, there won't be any difference between using save small or save geometry only or do not using them. So if you want to share your file with somebody, you'd better to not save the render meshes. And finally, you can use a compressor tool. For example, I compress this file by rar. So then we can have the file in lower size. And you know, as the size grows up or increases, it would be difficult to share it with others in renderings, in uploading and downloading. So guys, we're done with mesh. Let us talk about notes. Here in notes, you can add your descriptions or you can type some information. Check it out. And then click on OK. Following that, when we save the file, these notes will be transferred within the file and you can get access to the notes by typing notes in command line. And this is used for sharing or preparing some descriptions or notes within the file for the receiver of the file, that the receiver should be informed. And when you save your file, the notes will be saved too. And as I told you before, in document properties, you can adjust the settings for the specific file and they will be saved only on that file till you save it. And then in the continuation, we're going to talk about the Rhino options which are related to the software itself, not to the files. The first thing that I want to talk about is the aliases that we've talked about at the first season, that we imported some shortcuts or aliases that belong to AutoCAD. We imported them there and then to use them. But here I'm going to tell you how to create new aliases. Before that, let me talk about macro editor in Rhinoceros. Here I want to maximize the Rhinoceros macro editor to fix it at the right side of the scene. Here we can create macros in Rhino to automate many tasks, customize your commands and improve your workflow. For example, if you want to draw some circles, you can type circle. Following that, the circle will be started, so then you can specify the center point and have the circle. And then in the continuation, you can specify the position and also the radius, 0 and 16 for radius. If I click on play, check it out, we will have the circle. It is cool. Following that, if I want to select it, check it out, I type cell last, and then I want it to be extruded, check it out, extrude curve, and then the value of extrude distance 12 meters. Check it out. We command Rhino to create this, and here what we have written in macro editor can be used as a command in aliases. So here I click on new, and then I name the command new test, for example, or the alias Then in command macro, as you are concerned when we are using the commands in macro editor, we press down enter, but here in the command macro we press down spacebar. For example, circle spacebar at the origin point at the radius of 14, and then cell last, and then extrude at the distance of 13. Okay, then if I'm not wrong, if I start test, then if I type test in the command line, we will have the extrusion. Check it out, that we can get access to the object very quickly because of the macro command or command macro. Again, I start test. Check it out. Then as you can see, we got the circle at the specified position and radius, and also extrusion. Then at the next part in appearance, we can specify the language used for display, the command prompt, the text size, background, text color, font, and also the background and viewport color like blue. Check it out for the background, or gray like this way. And even the text size, I increase the size. Check it out. However, we can hold down Control, and then by using the scroll of the mouse or the wheel of the mouse can control the size, the text size. Again in text size, and then I set it to 9. And here, in order to not to get involved in changing the settings of the appearance, I have provided a file for you, Rhino themes, that you can import it to Rhino by click and drag and then drop. You can have the themes toolbar. Check it out. And here we got the different kinds of themes that we can apply them to the Rhino appearance, like Eclipse. Check it out. F3 to return the properties. Here I'm trying different kinds of themes, or the dark, for example. Check it out. So by using the themes, Rhino themes, you can change the appearance to your wanted appearance, because this is simpler than modifying the colors manually, since we got some prepared formats. We set it to default, and then we move on. Great. And the next one is files. For example, the first one, we specify the location for the template files and also the location for the default template file. When we open a file in Rhino, the welcome message will be shown. That here, if I type about in the command line, we can display it here. Check it out. Here in templates, in new toolbar, we got the template files of the Rhino. That one of them, which is large objects meters, is selected as the default template file. Or here you may want to change the template file, the default template file, and then choose it to, set it to large objects per centimeters. So here in Rhino options, and then in files, following that we open the list of template files and then choose the default one. And then the next one is save. Then you can choose to create backup files when saving or exporting your files, and you can adjust the autosave or save every 20 minutes or 5 minutes and so on, and the file path for the autosave. And then in general, you can set the most recently used commands pop-up menu. The limit list has been set to 20 commands. Here when you right click on the command line, these are the recently used commands. Then you can specify the limit, and you can choose to show some of the commands always if you mention them there. For example, I type extrude curve since I want it to be displayed in the command line pop-up menu. As you can see, we got the extrude curve. So one of the ways that we can get access to the commands quickly, in addition to the pop-up menu here on the scene, is defining these commands in the command line by right click and get access to them. Then you can define the most oftenly used commands. Here even you can define the never repeat commands, or the commands that you want them to be not repeated. And when we press down enter, right click or space, the mentioned commands won't be repeated, like delete, snap, cancel, undo, history, enter, multipause. Let me give you an example. Here when I draw a curve like this way, a polyline, Then the last command was polyline as you're concerned. Here if I delete it, check it out. Here we have used delete command. But if I press down enter, then we will get back to polyline. Delete did not repeat, because in the Rhino option, we have defined delete to never be repeated. And then in undo, the max memory used, it shows that the amount of undoing the processes is limited. That here you specify the max memory used for undoing the processes. Suppose that you have placed several points, that the size of the memory is not too high, so we can use undo for several times, since still we got empty space or empty capacity, we can move on undoing. But sometimes in some of the commands, since the process is too heavy and complex, it does not let us to move on undoing. And in the isocurve density, the default value is 1. When we draw a surface or create a surface like this, here we specify the isocurve density value for default value. So here in Rhino options, we can set it to 4. And then we create the surface. We will have 4 isocurves at each of the directions by this way. And the next one refers to keyboards. We got some shortcuts that we talk about them, which is aliases. That enables you to type the first words of each of the commands and then get access to them by pressing enter. For example, we can type cp and then start copy, or you can type F enter to start fillet. But in keyboard, there is press down enter. For example, F1 is related to help command, or F3 is related to properties, or F10 for the control point, F8 for ortho and others. F8, check it out, ortho is activated like this way. So here we got some commands that we can activate them without pressing enter. And here even we can have new commands by typing the command in front of the keys to associate the keys to the desired command. For example, for Ctrl plus Shift plus X button, I type the exclamation mark and then circle. Then if I get back to scene and then Ctrl plus Shift X, check it out, circle would be started. Let us continue. And then in modeling aids, for instance, in notch part, we got the notch keys, notch direction and steps. For example, by using the arrow buttons, arrow down or up, and holding down Ctrl and Shift button, we can use these to navigate in the scene. Check it out, like this way. And then at the next part, in modeling aids, for example in smart track and guides, you can specify the max number of smart points, or the colors, the appearance as related to these smart tracks, or the amount of time that we should wait for the smart track to be activated, or when we are moving the cursor of the mouse or drawing a curve, which information do we want to be displayed when we put the cursor of the mouse on a curve, for instance. For example, distance. Then when I draw a curve, check it out. As you can see, distance is showed, which it could be useful and practical. Again, in options, and then in gumball, that you can specify the sizes in pixels and also the colors along each of the directions. For example, instead of red, we can choose purple or cyan. Right now we have changed the color of gumball, check it out, along x-axis, red. Well done. And the last thing that I wanna talk about is in viewport, in display modes. Here we got some of the display modes displayed in red, in blue actually, because we have made some changes upon them, so we can select them and then restore them to their default mode, so we can have them to their default mode. And then here back to the scene, if I create a surface like this way, and then I wanna show the changes of the display modes upon this surface, for example shaded, in shaded, and then objects. I open surfaces. In surface edge settings or surface isocurve settings, here we can specify the isocurve color usage in shaded display mode, red and green for example. Okay, so this shows that we are at the shaded display mode since the isocurves are displayed in red and green, but they are black in ghosted mode. Since we have only made that changes on display mode of shaded, or like in shadows, we can turn on and off the shadows and the grid settings, and some other settings as you can see. And if you wanted to restore the default settings, you can select the blue item and then click on restore defaults, so the default settings would be restored. And in Rhino options, and each of these items or parts, if you are available, we got access to restore defaults. Here in Rhino options, view, I restored the shader to its default modes. Okay, so guys, we had a briefly review upon the Rhino options and also the document properties. I hope you have enjoyed this session. See you in the next session.